Hi, I'm going to show a demonstration, show an example of how a TCP client is connected to a TCP server in Delphi. It's a Pascal version of Delphi. I'm using indy components in this version of Delphi. It is downloaded from the Embarcadero home site. It's a free download version, so Delphi 10.2.3. It's a strapped version, but it is sufficient to show this example for communication by means of TCP from client to server and back. So in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to make an easy example, because I'm going to have both the client and server in the same application here. So in the component palette, I'm looking for TID TCP. Then I have a TCP client object showing up here, and I'm also looking for TID TCP, and here is the server component. These two components are used for connection and communication. So in another case, we have client and server on different application on different computers also. But for this example, I combine these two components in the same application for easy demonstration. I also have to use a list box object for each of these two components, one for the server and one for the client, like that. So I don't need the structure window, so I close that one. So I'm looking for the properties for the server. I have to declare some port usage here. I think I like to have port 60 used here, and the server has to be activated like that. And the client has to use the same port, of course, port 60 in this case. And here we have to apply the address for the host, which the client is taking connection to. And since they are in a common application here, I can use local host here. But in other cases, you have to use the IP address for the host location. So that's it. Now I have to look at the events also, events handlers. For the server, it is recommended that you have to have something on the execute handler here. So I'm going to write something here which I'm going to use after the connection is made by the client to the server. So here I use list box 1 and add an item to the list box, and what I add here is information about the what the client is shipping to the server of information. This is TCPServer is a multi-thread, multi-task task object. It can handle a number of clients simultaneously. So each client is having its information in this A contacts object. So when a client is making contact to the server, information about that client is stored here in this object A context. So in order to use the I'm using this A context object, and here I am using the binding handler. And then Now I'm using the connection property, and here I use a socket and read the information from the clients. And since this is an add item function of the list box, I also have to have a nil here to since there are no object associated with this entry to the list box. I can also have a response back to the clients here for the entry from the client. Then I use the same a context object, having a connection property used, and the socket, and now I write. I think I use the right line of function here, and giving a response. I think I only skrive execute here, executing maybe like that. So that is a message client is getting back from the request it make to the server. Here you can have anything in response from elsewhere in the software. So this is on the demonstration case. Here on the connection event handler, I can also have some code, and what I like to have here is a context connection socket, and a write line message to the client that it has been connected, like that. Okay, I think I also like to have a message in the list box for the server that they are been made a connection. So I write list box here and add item again, and now I make a statement that connecting. I think I only have this label now in the first place. Here we also have to have nailed in order, since there are no object associated with this entry in the list box. So that's it for the server side. But here on the client side, I need a button to connect the client to the server. So I like to have a captcha label on this button, telling that it is connecting, like that. And in the action of this button, I write ID TCPClient1, ID TCPClient1 connect, like that. So now we can test this application to see how it works. You have to save it first, like that, maybe in a folder, saving all the software in this folder, and then run compile it. And here we have a firewall acceptance which is demanded. I accept that one, and now we have the window here for the form we have made in the application. Pressing connect here, and then we see there is a connection in the server list box. We also like to have a confirmation here in the client list box. So we make some modification in the code for that. So in the client events list handler. There are unconnected events handler here, and here we can write that the client is connected to a server. I think I like to have well, we have to have list box 2 for the client and add item for that, and I think I like to have a message from the server here. We'll see if that works or not. So I write the ID TCPClient 1 socket read line comma nil, no object associated with this list box entry. We'll see how that works. Okay, run it, connect, and there we see it is connected. That was the message given from the server. So so it seems to work well. We now like to give a message to the server from the client. We have now only made the connection, so we close it, close the application, and add an edit object and another bottom object here, like that. So we label this bottom by the label send, and what we do now is making some code for this send button, and that is ID TCPClient 1 socket, and we write line, and what we write is in contents in the edit box. So we write here edit 1 text, like that. So now we're going to see what kind of response the server has to this request from the client. So we make a try for the compilation. Here it is. Seems to work well. We make some connections here, and then we push the send button. And yes, the text appears in the server, which we had here at the client. We make a request here and send a request, and it is received here for processing in the server. And the server can then give a response, and we can't see the response yet at the client list box. So that's the next step, because the response from the server is not showing here automatically. We have to do some operations in order to achieve that. So we close the application window, and we have another button here, and that button we call read. read the server. So here we put a code with have the list box 2. We add an item here, and that item we get from the ID TCP client 1. ID TCP client 1 point more wrong TCP client. There we are, and then we read first the socket, and then read line from the server, and that is put into the list box 2. That is the list box for the client. And here we also have to have a nil statement for no object associated with this list box entry. Okay, we'll see now how this works. We compile it. Here we are, connected. We send a request and we read the response. Yeah, we got the response here. If we press once more, the system hangs. So I'll wait for 5 seconds, which is delay for the server, in order to close it. So it's not a good idea to use this read button, because you can press it twice and then the system will try to read something which is not sent from the server. So we make another option here now. Since the response from the server is not given automatically to the client, we have to press this read button. We add a timer, timer object here, and this timer, well, we take intervals for 100 milliseconds for this timer, and the code we write here in the timer, that is like this. We look if the ID TCP client is connected first. Client 1 is connected first. We have to have it then here, and if that's the case, we test if the ID TCP client 1 socket. We have property here. Where is it? We have to look for it. I can't find it. Make another try. Here it is. Input buffer is empty. So if the input buffer is empty, well, in fact, we are looking for if that is not the case. So not if the input buffer is not empty, we could read the buffer. Then we could in the list box to add time, and we are going to read the ID TCP client 1 socket read line, like that, and don't forget the nil statement for no object associated with the list box tail. So now we are going to see what happened. We run it, connected, send a request. Yeah, you see the response at once because the timer is picking up the response here. So we don't need the read button anymore. So we could delete that. Like that. So then we have concluded with a application with a client connected to the server, and here we have responses both for the server and for the client that the connection is made. And then we can have a request here sending from the client to the server, and the request is going to do some execution, which is this. At the moment in this example is this label only executing. So we could do that so many times we like to, and we get the response after some delay, at least 100 milliseconds. We could have a short delay if you like to have that. So that's it. The next step is to make a list of the clients connect it to the server and send some messages to each client. That's the next step, but it's enough for now. Thank you.